A widowed millionaire was dining alone in a luxury restaurant, remembering the wife he lost years ago. Suddenly, a poor girl came in hungry and said innocently, "My mother has a ring just like yours." At that moment, he felt the floor disappear, as he realized that the ring was his late wife's alone. Not knowing whether to cry or smile, he discovered that the girl was his daughter and his wife was alive somewhere. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. Robert Blackwood sat alone at his usual corner table in Adagio, the most exclusive restaurant in Manhattan. The staff knew better than to make small talk with him, especially tonight. This wasn't just another business dinner, it was the 25th anniversary of Stella Retreats, the luxury hotel chain he had built from the ground up with Catherine, his beloved wife. 5 years had passed since the car accident that took her away. 5 years of hollow success and meaningless wealth. Robert absently twisted the antique platinum ring on his finger, a family heirloom over a century old, with an unusual geometric pattern surrounding a rare blue diamond. Only 3 such rings had ever been created for the Blackwood family. "You're 82 Bordeaux, Mr. Blackwood," the sommelier said, pouring a modest amount into his glass. Robert nodded, taking a small sip while reviewing the quarterly reports on his tablet. Stella Retreats had just opened its 30th location in Tokyo, and reservations were already booked solid for the next 6 months. The business pages were calling him the Hotel King of the Modern Era. What they didn't mention was how empty his Manhattan penthouse felt each night, how he'd rather sleep in his office than face the silence of his home. The commotion near the entrance barely registered until it grew louder. Robert glanced up, annoyed at the disruption of the restaurant's carefully cultivated atmosphere. What he saw made him freeze mid-sip. A small girl, no more than 8 years old, had somehow slipped past the maitre d' in security. Her blonde hair was tangled and dirty, her clothes torn and stained, and her feet completely bare despite the cool April evening. But what struck Robert most was the look in her eyes, a desperate hunger as she stared at the plates of food on nearby tables. Before security could escort her out, Robert raised his hand. "It's all right," he called across the suddenly silent dining room. "Let her stay." The security guard stepped back uncertainly. Robert beckoned to his server. "Please bring a children's portion of whatever the chef recommends." He turned to the little girl, his voice gentler than it had been in years. "Would you like something to eat?" She nodded silently, her eyes wide with surprise, and cautiously approached his table. Robert pulled out a chair for her, ignoring the disapproving glances from other diners. "What's your name?" he asked as she climbed onto the plush seat. "Emma," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm Robert," he replied, offering his hand formally as if she were a business associate. Emma stared at it for a moment, before tentatively shaking it with her small dirt-smudged fingers. When the food arrived, a simple but elegantly plated pasta dish, Emma didn't hesitate. She ate with a hunger that spoke of missed meals and hard times. Robert watched her, something in his chest tightening. He'd donated millions to children's charities over the years, but seeing this child's hunger up close affected him in a way those abstract transactions never had. As Emma ate, her eyes occasionally darted around the restaurant, taking in the crystal chandeliers and the fine china. During one of these glances, her gaze stopped on Robert's hand, specifically on his ring. "My mum has a ring just like yours," she said suddenly, her voice clear and innocent. Robert froze, his water glass halfway to his lips. "What did you say?" "My mom has a ring like that," Emma repeated, pointing to his hand. "With the blue stone and the funny design. She keeps it in a little box and only takes it out sometimes to look at it. She cries when she does." The restaurant around them seemed to fade away. The ring on Robert's finger was one of only 3 ever made. His was the first. The second had disappeared with his twin brother James, who had vanished during a sailing trip 25 years ago. And the third had been on Catherine's finger when they buried her empty casket after the accident that had consumed her car in flames. "Your mother," Robert said carefully, struggling to keep his voice steady. What's her name? Emma tilted her head, as if considering whether this was information she should share with a stranger. Kate, she finally said, but sometimes she calls herself Sarah when we have to move again. Kate. Catherine had always preferred Kate among friends. Do you have a picture of your mom? He asked, his heart pounding so hard he was sure everyone in the restaurant could hear it. Emma nodded, reaching into the torn pocket of her dress. She pulled out a crumpled, dirty piece of paper and handed it to him. Robert carefully unfolded it, his hands trembling. The photograph was worn and faded, but the woman in it was unmistakable, older, thinner, with new lines of weariness etched into her face, but undeniably Catherine. His Catherine, who he'd believed had died 5 years ago. Robert stared at the photo, his mind racing. It wasn't possible. He'd identified her personal effects after the accident. The investigators had been certain no one could have survived. Yet here was this child, with his wife's face looking back at him from a crumpled photograph. "Where do you live, Emma?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm despite the storm raging inside him. "In Millfield," she replied, naming a small town about 2 hours from the city. "Behind the old Wheeler house. Mom says we have to stay quiet so people don't know we're there." Robert discreetly signaled to his server. When the man approached, Robert whispered, "Please keep her glass when she's done. Don't wash it." The server looked confused but nodded. As Emma finished her meal, Robert made a call to his personal assistant, Marcus. "I need an urgent favor," he said quietly, stepping away from the table momentarily. "Contact Dr. Jennings at Biogen Labs. I'll be sending a sample for immediate DNA analysis, compared against my profile on file." When he returned to the table, Emma was using a piece of bread to soak up the last of the sauce on her plate. "Would you like some dessert?" Robert asked, forcing a smile despite the turmoil inside him. Emma's eyes lit up. "Yes, please." While she enjoyed a bowl of ice cream, Robert tried to process what was happening. If Catherine was alive, why had she disappeared? Why had she allowed him to believe she was gone, and this child, could she possibly be his daughter? "Emma, how old are you?" he asked casually. "I'm 8, she replied between spoonfuls. "I'll be 9 in August." Robert did the math quickly. If Catherine had been pregnant when she disappeared 5 years ago, the timing would be right. The possibility sent a wave of dizziness through him. "Emma, I need to take you home," Robert said when she finished her dessert. "Your mother must be worried about you." Fear flashed across the girl's face. "Mom told me not to talk to strangers. She'll be mad I came here." "I'm not a stranger anymore," Robert said gently. "And I promise, I just want to make sure you get home safely." After some hesitation, Emma agreed. As they walked to his car, Robert instructed Marcus to collect the glass and rush it to the lab. Then he helped Emma into the back seat of his armored Bentley, noting how her eyes widened at the luxury vehicle. As they pulled away from the restaurant, Robert caught glimpses of Emma in the rearview mirror. She had Catherine's eyes, her delicate chin. How had he not seen it immediately? Every gesture, every expression was a ghost of the woman he had loved, still loved. "It's a long drive," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Why don't you tell me about your mum?" As Emma began to talk, Robert gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white. After 5 years of emptiness, his world had just been turned upside down by a hungry little girl in bare feet. And somewhere, 2 hours away, was the woman he'd mourned every day since losing her. The woman who, for reasons he couldn't begin to fathom, had chosen to disappear from his life. The drive to Millfield felt endless. Robert's mind raced with questions while Emma dozed in the back seat, exhausted from her adventure. Occasionally he glanced at her through the rearview mirror, still stunned by the resemblance to Catherine. The GPS directed him to the outskirts of town, a far cry from the affluent neighborhoods of Manhattan. As they turned onto a poorly maintained road, Robert's headlights illuminated a neighborhood in decline. Abandoned houses with boarded windows, overgrown yards, and broken streetlights. "Which one is the Wheeler house?" Robert asked softly when Emma stirred awake. "That one," she pointed to a dilapidated Victorian home set back from the road, "but we live in the little house behind it." Robert parked his Bentley, conspicuously out of place in this forgotten corner of Millfield. As Emma led him through an overgrown path beside the main house, his phone vibrated in his pocket. It was Marcus. "Sir, Dr. Jennings is expediting the analysis, but she needs a few more hours." "Understood. Keep me posted," Robert replied, ending the call as they approached a converted garden shed behind the Victorian house. Emma ran ahead to a door with peeling paint. "Mom, I'm home!" she called out. A woman's voice answered from inside, tired, but warm. "Emma, where have you been? I was so worried." The door opened and there she was. Catherine. His Catherine. She stood frozen in the doorway, her once luxuriant dark hair now dull and streaked with premature grey, her face thinner than he remembered. But her eyes, those distinctive hazel eyes, widened in shock as she saw him standing behind Emma. "Robert," she whispered, the colour draining from her face. Time seemed to stop as they stared at each other across 5 years of absence. Emma looked between them, confusion evident in her expression. "Mom, do you know him?" Catherine pulled Emma protectively against her, her eyes never leaving Robert's face. "Go inside, sweetheart," she said, her voice trembling. "But Mom, now, Emma." Emma reluctantly disappeared into the shed, and Catherine stepped outside, pulling the door closed behind her. In the dim light from a single bulb above the door, Robert could see how thin she had become, how her clothes hung loosely on her frame. "You need to leave," Catherine said, her voice low and urgent. "Please, Robert, just go." 5 years, Robert said, his voice cracking. 5 years I thought you were gone. I identified your personal effects. I buried an empty coffin. I mourned you every single day. Catherine wrapped her arms around herself, looking away. "I'm not who you think I am." "Stop lying," Robert's voice grew firmer. "I know it's you, Catherine. Emma showed me your picture. She told me about your ring, the Blackwood ring. There were only 3 ever made." "You're mistaken," she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. "The girl," Robert pressed on, "she's 8 years old. Was she... Is she my daughter?" Catherine's silence was answer enough. "Why?" Robert stepped closer, his voice breaking. "Why would you do this? Make me believe you were gone, keep my child from me." "You wouldn't understand," Catherine whispered, tears now streaming down her face. "I had to protect her, protect both of you." "Protect us from what?" Before she could answer, Emma cracked the door open, peering out at them. "Mom, why are you crying?" Catherine quickly wiped her tears. "Everything's fine, honey. Mr. Blackwood was just leaving." "No," Robert said firmly. "I'm not going anywhere until I get answers." His phone rang again, Marcus with an update. "Sir, preliminary results confirm a parent-child relationship. Dr. Jennings says the confidence level is over 99.9%. The child is unquestionably yours." Despite having suspected it, hearing the confirmation made Robert's knees weak. He had a daughter who had been living in poverty while he commanded a multi-billion-dollar empire. "Let me in, Catherine," he said, his voice gentle but resolute. "Let me see where my daughter has been living." After a moment's hesitation, Catherine stepped aside, allowing Robert to enter the small structure that had been her home with Emma for the past several years. The interior of the shed was barely 400 square feet, converted into a rudimentary living space. A mattress lay on the floor in one corner, covered with worn blankets. A hot plate and mini refrigerator comprised the kitchen area. The bathroom was nothing more than a curtained-off corner with a camp toilet and a plastic basin for washing. A small shelf held Emma's few possessions, some second-hand books, a worn teddy bear, and a handmade doll. The contrast to the luxury that had surrounded Catherine in their previous life was staggering. Robert felt physically ill looking at the conditions his wife and child had been living in. "You've been here all this time?" he asked, his voice hollow. Catherine nodded, keeping Emma close to her side. "Not always here, we've moved around." "But why, Catherine? I had resources, connections, whatever trouble you were in." "I wasn't in trouble," she interrupted. "You were." Robert stared at her, uncomprehending. Catherine sighed, looking down at Emma. Honey, can you please get your pajamas on? It's past your bedtime. Emma looked reluctant but obeyed, disappearing behind a makeshift curtain that divided the tiny space. Once Emma was out of earshot, Catherine lowered her voice. Do you remember Victor Castillo? Robert tensed at the name. Victor Castillo had been a business associate in his early days of expanding Stellar Retreats, a silent investor with connections that Robert had later discovered were questionable at best. When Robert had tried to buy out Castillo's stake in the company, things had gotten ugly. What about him? The night before I disappeared, Catherine said, choosing her words carefully with Emma nearby. He approached me in the parking garage at the office. He knew I was there to surprise you for lunch. She swallowed hard. He told me that if I didn't disappear from your life completely, he would make sure neither of us survived the week. He showed me photos of us at home, at restaurants, even at my doctor's appointment where I'd just confirmed my pregnancy. Robert felt the blood drain from his face. Why didn't you come to me? We could have handled it together. He was explicit. That if I told you, he would act immediately, Catherine said. I knew how dangerous he was, what he was capable of. I had to make a choice in that moment. I chose to protect you and our unborn child the only way I could. By letting me think you had died in that accident. Catherine nodded, tears flowing freely now. I staged it with the help of a friend from college who worked in movie special effects, the car, the fire. I made sure they'd find enough to identify me, but not enough to... She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. And then, you just disappeared, Robert said, still struggling to process. Everything. I had some emergency cash saved. I cut my hair, dyed it, changed my name to Sarah Wells. I moved constantly at first, afraid he'd find me. Eventually, I settled here when Emma was about 3. I worked whatever jobs I could find that paid cash. Did you ever try to find out? What happened after you left? Castillo had a sudden health crisis 6 months after your disappearance. He's been gone for over 4 years now. Catherine's eyes widened. I heard rumors a year or so ago, but I couldn't be sure. And by then, she gestured helplessly around the shed. I thought it was too late, that you'd have moved on, maybe remarried, or that you'd never forgive me for what I did. Forgive you? Robert stepped closer, his voice breaking. Catherine, I never moved on. I threw myself into work during the day and drank myself to sleep most nights. The only thing that gave my life any meaning was donating to causes you cared about. I established the Catherine Blackwood Foundation to help women and children in crisis. Emma emerged from behind the curtain, now dressed in faded pajamas with cartoon characters Robert didn't recognize. She looked between the adults, sensing the tension. Is everything okay? She asked in a small voice. Robert looked at his daughter, truly looked at her, and saw both himself and Catherine in her features. How much she had missed in her short life. How much he had missed. Emma, Catherine said gently. Mr. Blackwood, and I need to talk privately for a while. Can you read your book in bed? Emma nodded reluctantly and climbed onto the mattress in the corner, picking up a dog-eared paperback. Robert turned back to Catherine, lowering his voice. You don't have to live like this anymore. Either of you, please, just come back with me tonight. I have plenty of room. We can figure everything out tomorrow. Catherine hesitated, years of fear and survival instincts warring with the hope in his eyes. I don't know if I can just walk back into your life after everything. Then don't think of it as walking back into my life, Robert said. Think of it as giving Emma the life she deserves. Catherine glanced at their daughter, pretending to read while obviously listening to every word. The decision visibly weighed. On her, years of protective instincts battling with the undeniable truth of their situation. We'll come for tonight, she finally said, but I'm not making any promises beyond that. Relief flooded through Robert. It was a start, a small one, but more than he'd dared hope for just hours ago when he'd been sitting alone in that restaurant, commemorating what he thought was a life. And love lost forever. Pack whatever you need, he said softly. We can get anything else tomorrow. As Catherine gathered their meager belongings into a single worn duffel bag, Robert watched Emma, who had abandoned any pretense of reading and was now openly staring at him with curious eyes. His daughter. The very thought filled him with wonder and a fierce protectiveness he had never experienced before. "Are we going on an adventure, Mom?" Emma asked as Catherine zipped the bag closed. Catherine exchanged a look with Robert before answering, "Yes, sweetheart, we're going on an adventure." The ride back to Manhattan was surreal. Robert kept glancing in the rearview mirror, still, unable to believe that Catherine and Emma were really in his car. Emma had fallen asleep almost immediately, her head resting on Catherine's lap. Catherine stroked her daughter's hair absently, her gaze fixed on the passing darkness outside the window. "She has your eyes," Robert said softly, breaking the silence. Catherine looked up, meeting his gaze in the mirror. "And your stubbornness," she replied, the ghost of a smile touching her lips before fading away. They lapsed back into silence until they reached the private garage beneath Robert's penthouse building. As the elevator ascended to the top floor, Emma woke up, her eyes widening as she took in the polished brass fixtures and marble floors. "Do you live in a castle?" she asked Robert, fully awake now. "Not exactly," he replied with a gentle smile, "but it's a nice place. I think you'll like it." When the elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse foyer, Emma gasped. The sprawling apartment featured floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the glittering Manhattan skyline, museum-quality artwork on the walls and furnishings that cost more than most people's homes. "You live here all by yourself?" Emma asked, walking cautiously across the gleaming hardwood floors as if afraid she might damage them. "I do," Robert answered, watching as Catherine took in the apartment. Their home from before, though he had redecorated extensively after her presumed death, unable to live with the constant reminders. "It's very big," Catherine said, clutching their single duffel bag like a lifeline. "Let me show you to the guest rooms," Robert said, leading them down a hallway. "Emma, this one can be yours for tonight." He opened a door to reveal a tastefully decorated bedroom with a queen-sized bed. Emma approached it cautiously. "The whole bed is just for me?" The innocent question hit Robert like a physical blow. What kind of life had his daughter been living while he enjoyed every luxury? "Yes, sweetheart, it's all yours," Catherine answered when Robert seemed unable to speak. "Let's get you settled." While Catherine helped Emma prepare for bed, Robert went to the kitchen and poured himself a glass of scotch with shaking hands. By the time Catherine joined him, he had drained it and was contemplating another. "She's asleep," Catherine said, hovering uncertainly in the doorway. "The bed is bigger than our entire home. She's a bit overwhelmed." "She's not the only one," Robert replied, setting down his empty glass. "I still can't believe you're here, that I have a daughter." Catherine crossed her arms protectively across her chest. "Robert, The doorbell interrupted her. Robert frowned. "That must be Marcus. I asked him to bring over some essentials for you both." He returned moments later with his personal assistant, a serious-looking man in his 30s, carrying several shopping bags. Marcus's eyes widened almost imperceptibly when he saw Catherine, but his professional demeanor remained intact. "The items you requested, sir," he said, setting the bags on the counter. "Clothing, toiletries, and some basic necessities for both. Ms. Blackwood and the child." "Thank you, Marcus," Robert said. "That will be all for tonight." After Marcus left, Catherine approached the bags cautiously. "You didn't have to do this." "Of course I did," Robert replied. "You can't wear the same clothes forever, and Emma deserves—" He stopped himself, seeing Catherine's expression harden. "Deserves what?" she challenged. "To suddenly have everything handed to her? Do you think I haven't wanted to give her everything? Do you think I chose this life for us?" "That's not what I meant," Robert backpedaled. "I just meant that now that I know about you both being alive, I want to help. I want to provide for my family." Catherine's shoulders slumped. "I know. I'm sorry. It's just, this is all so much." She gestured around the luxurious kitchen. 5 years of surviving day to day, and suddenly we're here. It doesn't feel real." Robert wanted to reach for her, to pull her into his arms, as he would have done without hesitation in their past life. Instead, he maintained his distance, respecting the invisible barrier she had erected. "Why don't you get some rest?" he suggested. "The guest room next to Emma's is prepared." We can talk more in the morning." Catherine nodded, gathering the shopping bags. "Thank you, Robert, for everything tonight." After she left, Robert wandered through his empty living room, feeling more alive than he had in years despite the turmoil of emotions. He stopped at his home office and unlocked a hidden panel in the bookshelf, revealing a small safe. Inside was a velvet box containing the third Blackwood ring, Catherine's ring, recovered from their safety deposit box after her death. He closed his fingers around it, remembering the day he had placed it on her finger 12 years ago. Could they ever find their way back to that place of trust and love, or had too much happened, too much time passed? Robert barely slept that night, his mind racing with plans and possibilities. By dawn, he had made several decisions. He was at his desk reviewing documents when Catherine appeared in the doorway, wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans from the bags Marcus had brought. "You're up early," she said, looking more rested than she had the night before. "I had some things to take care of," he replied, standing. "Coffee?" She nodded, following him to the kitchen. As he prepared their drinks, hers with a splash of cream and 2 sugars, exactly as she had always taken it, he noticed her watching him with a mixture of familiarity and wariness. "You remembered," she said softly when he handed her the mug. "I remember everything about you, Catherine," he replied simply. She looked away, unable to hold his gaze. "Robert, about Emma." "She's beautiful," he said. "Smart too, I can tell. She has your quick mind. She deserves to know the truth," Catherine said, "about who you are to her." Robert's heart leapt. "You want to tell her I'm her father?" Catherine nodded slowly. "It's why I agreed to come here. She has a right to know you, and you have a right to know her. I've kept you both apart for too long." Before Robert could respond, Emma padded into the kitchen in her oversized pajamas, her hair tousled from sleep. She stopped short when she saw them, suddenly shy. "Good morning, sweetheart," Catherine said. "Did you sleep well?" Emma nodded, eyeing the gleaming kitchen with its professional-grade appliances. "This place is really big." Robert smiled. "Would you like some breakfast? I can make pancakes." Emma's eyes lit up. "Really? We never have pancakes." "Then pancakes it is," Robert said, trying to ignore the pang those words caused. While he began gathering ingredients, Catherine guided Emma to sit at the kitchen island. "Emma, honey, there's something important Mr. Blackwood and I need to talk to you about," Catherine began. Emma looked between them, suddenly serious. "Are we in trouble? Do we have to leave?" "No, sweetheart, nothing like that," Catherine assured her. "It's about Mr. Blackwood, about who he is." Emma frowned slightly. "He's the man from the restaurant." "Yes, but he's more than that," Catherine took a deep breath. "Emma, he's your father." Emma's eyes widened, darting between Catherine and Robert. "My father? But you said my father was gone." "I thought he was," Robert interjected gently. "I didn't know about you, Emma. Your mother and we were separated before you were born. I didn't know I had such an amazing daughter until last night." Emma processed this information with remarkable composure for an 8-year-old. "Is that why you have the same ring as Mom's?" Robert nodded. "These rings have been in my family for a very long time. There are only 3 of them in the world." "Do I get one too?" Emma asked, practical concerns apparently taking precedence over the revelation of her paternity. Robert laughed, tension breaking. "Not yet. They're a bit too big for you, but someday, perhaps." Emma seemed satisfied with this answer and moved on to her next concern. "If you're my dad, does that mean we're going to live here now?" Catherine and Robert exchanged glances. "We haven't figured everything out yet," Catherine answered carefully. "But for now, we're staying here as your father's guests." "I want you both to stay," Robert said firmly. "This place has always been too big for just me." As they ate breakfast together, the first of many meals as a reunited family, Robert observed the easy way Catherine interacted with Emma. The gentle corrections, the inside jokes, the shorthand that had developed between them over 8 years. He had missed so much. "I have some things to take care of at the office today," Robert said as they finished eating. But I was thinking we could all have dinner together tonight. Maybe go shopping beforehand. Emma probably needs some more clothes. School supplies. School? Emma perked up. I haven't been to real school in a long time. Mom teaches me at home. Robert raised an eyebrow at Catherine, who shrugged. We move around too much, and we can't always afford the documentation schools require. Well, that won't be a problem anymore, Robert assured them. There's an excellent private school just a few blocks from here. The spring term is almost over, but I'm sure we could arrange for Emma to visit, maybe start in the fall. I don't know, Robert, Catherine began. Everything's happening so fast. Mom, please, Emma pleaded. I want to go to real school, with other kids and everything. Catherine's resistance crumbled in the face of her daughter's excitement. We'll see, she conceded. But first, let's just take things one day at a time. After breakfast, Robert reluctantly prepared to leave for his office. Marcus will be available if you need anything, he told Catherine. I've instructed him to help you with whatever you require. Credit cards, cash, transportation. We'll be fine, Catherine assured him. We've managed on our own for a long time. That's just it, Robert said quietly. You don't have to manage on your own anymore. Either of you. As he turned to leave, Emma surprised him by running up and hugging him around the waist. Bye, Dad, she said, testing out the word. Robert froze for a moment, then knelt down to her level, his throat tight with emotion. Bye, Emma. I'll see you tonight, okay? She nodded solemnly. Don't be late. Mom hates when people are late. Robert glanced up at Catherine, who was watching them with a complex expression. I remember, he said softly. I won't be late. Throughout his day at Stella Retreat's headquarters, Robert found it nearly impossible to concentrate. He delegated most of his meetings to his executive team, claiming a family emergency, which, in a way, it was. Instead, he focused on making arrangements for Catherine and Emma's integration into his life. By 5 o'clock, he was heading home, something he rarely did at such an early hour. As the elevator ascended to his penthouse, Robert felt a nervous anticipation he hadn't experienced in years. For the first time since Catherine's disappearance, he was coming home to a family, his family, rather than an empty apartment filled with expensive possessions that had long since lost their meaning. The weeks that followed brought a dizzying series of changes for all three Blackwoods. Robert rearranged his entire work schedule to spend more time at home, delegating responsibilities he'd previously insisted on handling personally. For the first time in 5 years, Stella Retreats was no longer the center of his universe. Catherine watched these changes with cautious optimism. The Robert she remembered had been ambitious and driven, often working 16-hour days as he built his empire. This new Robert, who came home for dinner every night, who spent weekends taking Emma to museums and parks, was both familiar and strange. You've changed, she observed one evening as they sat on the penthouse terrace after Emma had gone to bed. The Manhattan skyline glittered around them, a stark contrast to the abandoned neighborhood they'd left behind in Millfield. Robert swirled the whiskey in his glass, considering her words. Losing you changed me, he said finally. I threw myself into work because it was the only thing that dulled the pain. But it was hollow. Success meant nothing without someone to share it with. Catherine looked away, guilt shadowing her features. I never wanted to cause you pain. I thought I was protecting you. I know that now, Robert said softly. But Catherine, you have to understand, if you had come to me, we could have faced it together. I had resources, connections. I was pregnant and terrified, Catherine replied. All I could think about was keeping our baby safe. She paused, meeting his gaze directly. Would you have done any differently in my position? Robert couldn't answer. The truth was, he didn't know what he would have done. Tell me about her. Early years, he said instead. I've missed so much. Catherine's expression softened. She was the most beautiful baby, hardly ever cried. Her first word was book, not mama or dada like most kids. Always curious, always watching everything. She smiled at the memories. Even when things were at their hardest, she never complained. She'd make up elaborate stories about how we were princesses in disguise, living in hiding until our kingdom needed us. Robert felt his chest tighten. She is extraordinary, he agreed. You did an amazing job raising her, Catherine. Despite everything. We did what we had to do, she said simply. But seeing her here, watching her flourish with all these opportunities, it makes me wonder if I made the right choice all those years ago. Oh, you did what you thought was best, Robert assured her. That's all any parent can do. As May turned to June, they established a tentative routine. Emma visited the Dalton School and was provisionally accepted for the fall semester, contingent, on catching up over the summer with a private tutor. Catherine began volunteering at the Catherine Blackwood Foundation, finding it surreal to work for an organization named after her, especially since everyone there believed she was a woman, named Sarah Wells, whom Robert had recently hired. Robert, meanwhile, found himself rejuvenated. The board members of Stellar Retreats noted his improved mood, the new energy he brought to meetings. Several commented that he hadn't seemed this engaged since before his wife's accident. Not an accident, Robert corrected one board member, firmly. And I'd prefer we not discuss my personal life during these meetings. Behind closed doors, Robert worked with his legal team to reinstate Catherine's identity, a complex process given that she had been legally declared dead. They decided to proceed cautiously, filing the necessary paperwork without drawing media attention. The last thing any of them wanted was a public spectacle. One evening in late June, Robert returned home to find Catherine sitting at the kitchen counter, staring at a thick envelope. "What's that?" he asked, loosening his tie. "My new identity." "Documents," she replied. "Birth certificate, social security card, driver's license, all saying I'm Catherine Blackwood again." She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "It feels strange, like I'm stepping back into a life that isn't mine anymore." "It's always been yours," Robert said gently. "You just stepped away from it for a while." Catherine shook her head. "You don't understand. For 5 years I was Sarah Wells, single mother, waitress, house cleaner, whatever job I could find that paid cash, that became my identity. Catherine Blackwood, the corporate lawyer, the hotel magnate's wife, the socialite. She feels like someone I used to know." Robert leaned against the counter, studying her. "Then who do you want to be now?" "That's just it," Catherine said. "I don't know anymore." Before Robert could respond, Emma bounded into the kitchen, her tutor trailing behind her. "Dad! I got all my math problems right today," she announced proudly. "Ms. Peterson says I'm catching up super fast." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Robert said, his face lighting up as it always did when Emma called him Dad. It had taken only days for her to adopt the term, and each time she used it felt like a gift. "She has a natural aptitude for mathematics," the tutor confirmed, "and her reading comprehension is well above grade level. She just needs to fill in some gaps in science and social studies." After the tutor left, the three of them prepared dinner together, a new ritual that still felt novel to Robert. In his previous life with Catherine, they had eaten at restaurants most nights or had meals prepared by their private chef. This, domestic intimacy, chopping vegetables side by side, teaching Emma how to measure ingredients, was entirely new. "We should celebrate Emma's progress," Robert suggested as they ate. "Maybe take a trip this weekend? The Hamptons house has been sitting empty for years." Catherine tensed visibly. "I don't know if I'm ready for that." Robert understood her hesitation. The beach house held too many memories of their life before: weekend getaways, summer parties, lazy mornings in bed. It represented a carefree existence that had been shattered by Catherine's disappearance. "What about somewhere new?" he suggested instead. "We could fly down to Florida, visit Disney World. Emma would love it." "Disney World?" Emma's eyes widened. "Really?" Catherine and Robert exchanged glances. "Maybe," Catherine said cautiously. "We'll see." Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Robert found Catherine in his home office, looking at the framed photos on his desk, pictures of the two of them from before, smiling, unaware of how fragile their happiness was. "We were so young," she murmured as he entered. "We still are," Robert pointed out. "You're only 39, I'm 42. "It feels like another lifetime," Catherine said, setting down a photo from their honeymoon in Bali. "Sometimes I look at these pictures and barely recognize myself." Robert approached carefully, maintaining the respectful distance he'd kept since her return. Though they were legally still married, they had yet to discuss what that meant for their future. Catherine continued to sleep in the guest room, and Robert never pressed the issue. "Catherine," he said softly, "I know this transition hasn't been easy for you, for any of us, but I want you to know that I don't expect things to go back to how they were before. Too much has happened. We've both changed." She looked up at him, surprised. "Then what do you expect?" "Nothing," he said simply. "I'm just grateful to have you and Emma in my life, in whatever capacity you're comfortable with. If you want to, build a separate life for yourself. Go back to law, start a new career, whatever you want. I'll support you completely. If you want to co-parent with me but live separately, I'll respect that too." Catherine studied him, searching his face. "And if I wanted to try again, to see if there's still something between us worth salvaging?" Robert's heart raced. "I'd like that," he said carefully, "but only if you're sure, only if it's what you truly want." "I'm not sure of anything anymore," Catherine admitted, "except that Emma deserves to have both her parents in her life, and that despite everything, I've never stopped loving you, Robert, even when I convinced myself I had to let you go." Robert reached for her hand, and for the first time since her return, she didn't pull away. "I never stopped loving you either," he said, "not for a single day." The next morning, Robert called his office to say he wouldn't be coming in. Instead, the three of them boarded his private jet and flew to Orlando for an impromptu weekend at Disney World. Watching Emma experience the magic of the theme park, her eyes wide with wonder at the princesses, the parades, the fireworks, was a joy neither parent had dared hope for just months earlier. On their last night in Florida, as Emma slept soundly in the adjoining room of their hotel suite, Catherine and Robert stood on the balcony, watching distant fireworks illuminate the night sky. "Thank you for this," Catherine said softly. "Seeing her so happy, it's everything I ever wanted for her." "She deserves all the happiness in the world," Robert agreed. "So do you, Catherine." She turned to face him, her expression serious. "I've been thinking about what you said about building a life here, about us." Robert waited, hardly daring to breathe. "I want to try," she said finally, "for Emma's sake and for ours. But Robert, we can't just pick up where we left off. We need to get to know each other again, date, take things slowly." "I'd like that," Robert said, relief washing over him. "We can start fresh, no expectations, no pressure." Catherine smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes, something he hadn't seen since before her disappearance. "Our first date was at that little Italian place in the village," she recalled. "You spilled red wine all over your white shirt. And you used your soda water to help clean it up," Robert continued, the memory vivid. "I knew then that you were special." "Maybe we could go back there," Catherine suggested, "for our first new date." "I'd like that," Robert said, "though I can't promise I won't spill something again. I was nervous then, and I'll probably be nervous now." Catherine laughed softly. "The great Robert Blackwood nervous on a date? Hard to imagine." "Only with you," he admitted. "You've always had that effect on me." As they stood there, the distance between them seemed to shrink. For the first time in 5 years, or what felt like a lifetime, Robert dared to hope that they might find their way back to each other. The weekend in Florida marked a turning point. Upon returning to New York, Catherine began to open up more, sharing stories from her years in hiding. Robert listened, his heart breaking at the hardships she and Emma had endured. Nights when they'd gone hungry, winters when they couldn't afford heat, the constant fear of being discovered. "I worked 3 jobs at one point," Catherine told him one evening. "Day shift at a diner, evening shift at a convenience store, weekend cleaning jobs." Emma would sit in the back room of the diner, doing the worksheets I'd prepared for her. Robert clenched his jaw, thinking of his daughter confined to a dingy back room while he lived in luxury, attending charity galas and expanding his hotel empire. "I should have found you," he said, not for the first time. "How could you?" Catherine reasoned. "I made sure there were no trails to follow. I became a ghost, Robert. That was the point." As July arrived, bringing sweltering heat to the city, Emma flourished under the attention of her tutors, and the stability of their new life. She no longer hoarded food in her room, a habit Catherine explained had developed during their leaner times, and she spoke more confidently, her natural intelligence shining through as her education gaps were filled. By the time August arrived, bringing Emma's 9th birthday, the transformation in all their lives was remarkable. The penthouse, once a sterile showcase of wealth, had become a home. Emma's artwork adorned the refrigerator, Catherine's books filled the previously empty shelves, and family photos replaced the impersonal art that had hung on the walls. "I want to do something special for her birthday," Robert told Catherine as they planned the celebration. "Something meaningful." They were sitting in the living room after Emma had gone to bed, the easy companionship of their former life gradually returning. Their first date at the Italian restaurant had led to a second, then a third, careful steps toward rebuilding what had been lost. "She's never had a real birthday party," Catherine admitted. "Usually it was just the two of us with a cupcake and a small gift." Robert's heart ached at the thought. "Then we'll make this one count, but I don't want to overwhelm her with something too extravagant." Catherine smiled, appreciating his restraint. In the early weeks after their reunion, Robert had tried to compensate for lost time with lavish gifts, designer clothes, electronic devices, expensive toys. Catherine had gently pointed out that such excess might do more harm than good for a child accustomed to having almost nothing. "What about a small party here?" Catherine suggested. "She's made friends with some of the children in her summer program. We could invite them, have cake, games, normal birthday things." Robert nodded, but she could tell he had something else in mind. "That sounds perfect. But I was also thinking of a special gift, something to mark the occasion." "Robert," Catherine said cautiously, "we've talked about this. She doesn't need extravagant presents." "This isn't about the cost," he assured her. "It's about meaning." He went to his desk and returned with a small velvet box. When he opened it, Catherine gasped. Inside was a delicate ring in rose gold, featuring a smaller version of the distinctive geometric pattern that surrounded the blue stone in their Blackwood family rings. "I had it made for her," Robert explained. "It's sized for a child with a pink sapphire instead of a diamond. She can wear it now, and we can resize it as she grows." Catherine touched the ring gently. "It's beautiful, but are you sure? The Blackwood rings are a family tradition." "She is family," Robert said firmly. "Our daughter. This ring symbolizes that she's officially part of the Blackwood legacy with all the rights and privileges that entails." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "She'll treasure it." On the morning of Emma's birthday, they surprised her with breakfast in bed, pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse, a nod to their Disney trip. Emma's delight at this simple gesture made Robert realize how little it took to make her happy, compared to the material excess he'd surrounded himself with for years. The party that afternoon was small but joyful. 6 children from Emma's summer program came with their parents, most of whom were clearly curious about the suddenly appeared wife and daughter of the famous Robert Blackwood. To their credit, they kept their questions polite and minimal, focusing instead on making the day special for Emma. After cake and presents from her friends, Robert and Catherine presented Emma with their gifts. From Catherine, a handmade scrapbook, documenting their life together, both the difficult years on the run and their recent months as a reunited family. Emma paged through it reverently, lingering over photos of the 3 of them at Disney World at Central Park, having dinner together at home. "This is the best present ever, Mum," she said, hugging Catherine tightly. "I have something for you, too," Robert said when they separated. He knelt before Emma and presented the velvet box. "This is very special, Emma. It's something only Blackwoods have." Emma opened the box slowly, her eyes widening at the ring inside. "It looks like yours and Mom's." "That's right," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. "There were only 3 Blackwood rings in the world until now. This one was made just for you." Emma slipped it onto her finger, where it fit perfectly. "Does this mean I'm really a Blackwood now, forever?" "You've always been a Blackwood," Robert assured her. "This just makes it official." Emma threw her arms around his neck. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered. "I love you." Robert held her close, meeting Catherine's tear-filled eyes over their daughter's shoulder. In that moment, despite all the years, lost all the pain endured, he felt complete. After the party, when the guests had gone and Emma was playing with her new toys, Catherine found Robert on the terrace, gazing out at the city. "That was a perfect day," she said, joining him at the railing. "It was," he agreed. "Seeing her so happy, it's everything I never knew I wanted." Catherine studied his profile, noting the changes 5 years had wrought, the threads of silver at his temples, the deeper lines around his eyes. He was still handsome, still the man she had fallen in love with, but tempered now by loss and recovery. "I've been thinking," she said carefully, "about us, about our future." Robert turned to face her. "What about it?" "Emma starts school in a few weeks. I'll have more time on my hands." She took a deep breath. "I'd like to become more involved with the Catherine Blackwood Foundation, not just as a volunteer, but in a leadership role." Robert's face lit up. "I think that's a wonderful idea. The foundation was always meant to be yours. It has your name, your vision." "There's something else," Catherine continued. "I've been uncomfortable living here on your charity. I want to contribute, to build something of my own again." "Catherine, everything I have is yours," Robert began, but she shook her head. "That's not the point. Before everything happened, I was a corporate attorney. I had my own career, my own identity. I need that again." Robert nodded slowly, understanding. "What did you have in mind?" "I've been offered a position at the foundation, a real one, not just a courtesy title. Director of Legal Affairs. Sarah Wells's background check came back clean, and my old law license can be reinstated once my identity is legally sorted out." "That's wonderful," Robert said sincerely. "You'd be perfect for the role." Catherine hesitated. "There's one more thing, the most difficult thing." Robert waited, tension creeping into his shoulders. I think it's time I moved back into our bedroom," she said softly. "If that's still what you want." Relief flooded Robert's face. "It's what I want more than anything," he assured her. "But only if you're ready. I meant what I said about taking things slowly." "Life is too short for going slowly," Catherine said, stepping closer to him. "We've already lost 5 years." That night, for the first time since her return, Catherine slept in the master bedroom, in their bed. They moved cautiously, rediscovering each other with the wonder of new lovers and the familiarity of old ones. Afterward, Catherine lay in Robert's arms, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I never thought I'd have this again," she murmured. "There were so many nights I lay awake, missing you, wondering if I'd made the right choice." "You're here now," Robert said, stroking her hair. "That's all that matters." As summer turned to fall, their lives settled into a new rhythm. Emma started at Dalton, thriving in the academic environment and quickly making friends. Catherine took on her role at the foundation, bringing her legal expertise to bear on the organization's mission to help women and children in crisis. Robert continued to run stellar retreats, but with a new perspective, delegating more responsibility to his executive team, leaving the office by 5 most days, and taking weekends completely off. "The board thinks I've gone soft," he joked to Catherine. One evening, Jenkins actually asked me if I was feeling well, when I suggested we could delay the Tokyo expansion to focus on employee benefits. Catherine laughed, looking up from the legal briefs she was reviewing. The great Robert Blackwood, putting people before profits. Scandalous. "You've changed me," he said, his tone turning serious. "Both of you have. Before it was all about growth, expansion, being the biggest and the best. Now I understand there are more important things." In October, nearly 6 months after their reunion, they faced their first public event as a family, the annual gala for the Catherine Blackwood Foundation. For years, Robert had hosted it alone, standing stoically through the speeches about his tragic loss and generous philanthropy. This year would be different. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Robert asked Catherine as they prepared for the evening. "Once we appear publicly together, there's no going back. The press will be all over the story." Catherine nodded, adjusting the straps of her evening gown, a sleek midnight blue creation that made her look every inch the sophisticated philanthropist. "I'm ready. We've prepared the statement, the foundation staff knows the truth, and Emma is safely with her sitter. It's time to reclaim my life completely." The gala was held at the Stella Retreats flagship hotel in Manhattan. As they entered the grand ballroom, conversations faltered, heads turned, and whispers spread rapidly through the crowd. Catherine squeezed Robert's hand, drawing strength from his presence. Howard Jenkins, the chairman of Stella Retreats board, was the first to approach them, his expression a mixture of shock and delight. "Catherine, is it really you?" "Hello, Howard," she replied with a composed smile. "It's been a long time." "But how we all thought," he stammered, looking to Robert for explanation. "We'll be making a statement later this evening," Robert said smoothly. "For now, we're just happy to be here together, supporting the foundation." Throughout the cocktail hour, they moved through the crowd as a unit, accepting congratulations and deflecting questions with practiced ease. By the time Robert took the stage for his annual address, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. 5 years ago, he began, I established the Catherine Blackwood Foundation as a tribute to my wife, whom I believed had been taken from me forever. Its mission, to support women and children in crisis, reflected Catherine's lifelong commitment to helping those in need. He paused, scanning the rapt faces of the audience. Tonight, I stand before you with news that seems nothing short of miraculous. Due to circumstances that we will explain in greater detail in the coming days, my wife Catherine is alive. She has returned to us, to me, and brought with her our daughter Emma, whom I never knew existed. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, followed by spontaneous applause. Robert held up his hand for silence. Catherine's story, our story, is one of extraordinary sacrifice, courage, and ultimately reunion. It has transformed my understanding of what truly matters in life, and it has given new purpose to the foundation that bears her name. He extended his hand toward Catherine, who rose from her seat and joined him on stage, her poise unwavering despite the hundreds of eyes fixed upon her. "Ladies and gentlemen," Robert continued, "it is my great honor to introduce the new executive director of the Catherine Blackwood Foundation, Catherine Blackwood herself." The applause was thunderous. Catherine stepped to the microphone, her voice steady as she addressed the crowd. "Thank you for your warm welcome. While the circumstances of my absence and return are complex and personal, what matters most is the work that lies ahead. This foundation was born from loss. Now it will be driven by hope, hope for the countless women and children who find themselves in desperate situations, as I once did." She outlined her vision for the foundation's future, expanding its shelter program, creating educational opportunities for children in crisis, and establishing a legal aid division to help women navigate the complexities of starting over. "No one should have to choose between safety and dignity," she concluded. "No mother should have to raise her child in fear. With your continued support, we can ensure that fewer families face the impossible choices that mine did." As they left the stage, hand in hand, the crowd rose in a standing ovation. Later, as they mingled with donors and board members, Catherine leaned close to Robert. "We did it," she whispered. "First hurdle cleared." Robert squeezed her hand. "You were magnificent. They adore you, as they should." The next morning, as expected, their story was everywhere. Television news, newspapers, social media. The press release they had carefully crafted was quoted extensively, but speculation ran rampant about the details they had chosen to omit. Hotel magnate's dead wife returns after 5 years with secret child, blared one headline. Blackwood family reunion. The mystery behind Catherine's disappearance, proclaimed another. They had anticipated this frenzy and planned accordingly. Emma remained home from school for the week, protected from the media, circus by increased security at their building. Catherine gave a single, carefully controlled interview to a respected journalist, revealing enough of their story to satisfy public curiosity without exposing the most painful details. As fall turned to winter, the media frenzy around the Blackwoods gradually subsided. The family settled into a rhythm that felt both new and familiar, School drop-offs and business meetings, family dinners and foundation galas, quiet evenings at home and weekend trips to their recently reopened Hamptons house. On a snowy December evening, as they decorated their Christmas tree, the first they would celebrate together as a family, Emma suddenly asked, "Dad, do you have any other family? Like, do I have grandparents or aunts or uncles?" Robert exchanged a glance with Catherine. They had been so focused on rebuilding their immediate family that they had hardly discussed Robert's estranged relatives. "My parents passed away many years ago," Robert said carefully. "But I did have a twin brother, James." "A twin?" Emma's eyes widened. "Like identical. Where is he?" Robert set down the ornament he'd been holding. "James disappeared 25 years ago. We were on his sailboat, and there was a storm. I was rescued, but James was never found." "So he might still be out there somewhere," Emma pressed, her imagination clearly captured by this revelation. "Like how Mom was gone but then came back?" "It's possible," Robert conceded, though his tone suggested he thought it unlikely. "But it's been a very long time." Catherine touched his arm gently, sensing his discomfort. The loss of his twin had been a wound that never fully healed, one that had been reopened by Catherine's miraculous return. If she could come back from the dead, why not James? "Your father and his brother were very close," Catherine told Emma. "James had the second Blackwood ring." Emma looked down at her own smaller version. "So, there's one for Dad, one for you, one for Uncle James and mine." "That's right," Robert confirmed. "The original 3 plus yours. Maybe someday we'll find Uncle James too," Emma said with the simple optimism of childhood. "And then all the rings will be together again." That night, after Emma was asleep, Robert stood at the window of their bedroom, watching snow fall. Over Central Park, Catherine joined him, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "You're thinking about James," she said. It wasn't a question. "I search for him every year," Robert admitted. "Hire private investigators, check international databases, nothing." "But you never stopped looking," Catherine noted. "No," he agreed. "Just like I never truly believed you. Were gone even when all the evidence said you were. There was always this feeling. With James, it's different. I felt him die, Catherine. Twins are supposed to have that connection, and I felt it break." Catherine rested her head against his back. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to give you false hope by coming back." Robert turned to face her. "No, that's not it at all. Having you return is the greatest gift of my life. It's just made me wonder, if I was wrong about you, could I have been wrong about James too?" "Would you want to find out?" Catherine asked carefully. Robert considered the question. "I don't know. Our relationship was complicated toward the end. He resented my success, felt I'd left him behind. The sailing trip was supposed to be our reconciliation." "Emma would love to meet her uncle," Catherine observed. "Yes, she would," Robert agreed with a sad smile. "She has his curiosity, his sense of adventure." The holidays came and went, a joyous time filled with the magic of experiencing Christmas through Emma's eyes. For New Year's Eve, they hosted a small gathering at the penthouse, just Catherine's sister Claire, who had flown in from Seattle after an emotional reunion with her presumed dead sibling, a few close friends and several of Emma's school friends with their parents. As midnight approached, Emma, allowed to stay up for the occasion, tugged on Robert's sleeve. "Dad, I made a New Year's resolution." "Already? Did you?" he asked, smiling down at her. "What is it?" "I'm going to learn how to sail," she announced, "like you and Uncle James used to do. Maybe if I learn really well, I can help find him someday." Robert's expression softened. "That's a wonderful resolution, Emma. I'd be happy to teach you when the weather gets warmer." "Promise?" she pressed. "Promise," he assured her, touched by her determination to connect with the uncle she'd never met. When January arrived, bringing with it a new year and new possibilities, Robert made a resolution of his own. He would revisit the search for his brother, not with the desperate grief that had driven his earlier attempts, but with the hope and perspective that Catherine and Emma had restored to his life. He began by reaching out to the private investigator who had conducted the most recent search 5 years earlier. "I want to try again," Robert told the man during a meeting in his office. "With new resources, new technology, whatever it takes." "Mr. Blackwood," the investigator said carefully, "we've been through this before. The Coast Guard's conclusion was that your brother was lost at sea after 25 years. My wife returned after 5 years of being presumed dead," Robert interrupted. "Stranger things have happened." The investigator couldn't argue with that logic. "All right, we'll reopen the case, but I don't want to give you false hope." "Hope isn't false if it keeps you going," Robert replied, thinking of the years Catherine had survived on hope alone, hope that her sacrifice would keep him and their child safe. As winter progressed, Robert divided his time between Stella, retreats, his family, and the renewed search for James. Catherine watched with a mixture of support and concern, worried that Robert might be setting himself up for another devastating disappointment. "Just promise me you won't let this consume you," she said one evening as he pored over the investigator's latest report. "We've all found each other again. That might have to be enough." Robert looked up from the documents, his expression softening as he met her gaze. "It is enough. More than enough. This is just something I need to try once more. For Emma. And for myself." Catherine nodded, understanding. "Then we'll support you all the way." February brought a breakthrough, though not the one Robert had been expecting. The investigator called with news that a sailing vessel matching the description of James's boat had been discovered years earlier on a remote island in the South Pacific. The locals had salvaged it after it washed ashore during a storm, using its parts for their own boats and homes. "There's more," the investigator said. "According to island records, a Western man arrived around the same time, late 90s, which matches when James disappeared. He was injured, suffering from memory loss. He lived there for several years before leaving on a supply ship around 2005. Robert gripped the phone tighter. Did they have a name, a description? The name he used was Jim Black. Could be a coincidence. Could be a simplified version of his real name if he had partial memory. Description is vague. White male, early 30s at the time, which would fit. No mention of any distinguishing features that would confirm it was your brother." "Where did he go after 2005? Robert pressed. "That's where the trail goes cold. Again," the investigator admitted. "The supply ship was headed to New Zealand, but there's no record of a Jim Black or James Blackwood entering the country officially. He could have used another name or never arrived at all. It wasn't much, but it was more than they'd had in years. Evidence that James might have survived the storm, might have lived for years afterward, might still be out there somewhere." When Robert shared the news with Catherine that evening, she saw the renewed hope in his eyes and felt both joy and trepidation. Finding James alive after all this time would be another miracle. And miracles, as she well knew, came with complications. "What will you do next?" she asked. "The investigator is checking passenger manifests for ships leaving New Zealand around that time," Robert explained, "and I've authorized him to hire local contacts in the South Pacific to gather more information from the island." "And if you find him," Catherine asked carefully, "after all this time, he might be very different from the brother you remember." Robert nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. "I know, but he's still family, still a Blackwood." The search continued through March and April with frustrating slowness. Each promising lead seemed to fizzle out just as they got close. Robert tried to maintain his optimism, but Catherine could see the toll it was taking. Then in early May, just before Emma's 10th birthday, the investigator called with news that sent Robert rushing home from the office in the middle of the day. "We found him," he announced breathlessly as he burst into the penthouse, finding Catherine reviewing foundation documents at the dining table. She stood up, papers forgotten. "James, you found James?" Robert nodded, his expression a mixture of elation and disbelief. "He's alive, Catherine. Living under the name Jim Waters in a small coastal town in Oregon." The investigator sent photos. He pulled out his phone, showing her images of a man who was unmistakably Robert's twin, though weather-beaten and leaner, with longer hair streaked with grey. "Oh my God," Catherine whispered, studying the images. Despite the years and hardships evident in his face, the resemblance to Robert was undeniable. "Have you contacted him?" "Not yet," Robert admitted. The investigator confirmed his identity from a distance: fingerprint match from a glass at a local bar, DNA from a discarded coffee cup. But he hasn't approached him directly. I needed to come home first, to talk to you." "What does the report say about his life now?" Catherine asked, guiding Robert to sit down, sensing his overwhelmed state. "He owns a small boat repair business, lives alone in a modest house overlooking the ocean, keeps to himself mostly but is well regarded in the community. No wife, no children." Robert ran a hand through his hair. "He's been living this quiet, anonymous life all these years, just a few hours' flight away." "Does he know who he is?" Catherine asked the crucial question. "Or does he still have amnesia?" "The investigator isn't sure," Robert admitted. "He goes by Jim Waters, not Blackwood, but that could be a deliberate choice rather than memory loss. There's nothing in his known history to indicate whether he remembers his past." Catherine took his hands in hers. "What do you want to do?" "I want to go to him," Robert said without hesitation. "Today, tomorrow, as soon as possible, but you're afraid," Catherine finished for him. "Afraid of what you'll find, of whether he'll want to see you." Robert nodded. Vulnerability, plain on his face. "What if he remembers everything and has stayed away deliberately? What if he blames me for the accident?" "There's only one way to find out," Catherine said gently. The next day, Robert made arrangements for his private jet to fly them to Oregon. After much discussion, they decided that all three of them should go. This was a family matter, and Emma deserved to be part of it. "We're going on a special trip," Catherine told Emma that evening, "to meet someone very important." Emma looked up from her homework. "Who?" "Your father thinks he may have found his brother," Catherine explained carefully. "Your Uncle James." Emma's eyes widened. "Really? The one with the other ring? The one who got lost at sea?" "Yes," Catherine confirmed. "We're not entirely sure what happened to him or why he hasn't contacted your father all these years. That's why we're going to see him." "Does he know we're coming?" Emma asked, perceptive as always. Robert and Catherine exchanged glances. "No," Robert admitted. "We thought it might be better to approach him in person. It's a delicate situation." Emma considered this with surprising maturity. "Like how Mum came back after being gone for so long. That was delicate too." "Exactly like that," Catherine agreed. "Sometimes families get separated for complicated reasons. Bringing them back together takes care and patience." The following morning, they boarded Robert's private jet for the flight to Oregon. Emma was excited, peppering her parents with questions about the uncle she'd never met. Robert answered as best he could, sharing stories of their childhood, of summers spent sailing together, of the bond they'd shared before circumstances and choices had driven them apart. He was always the adventurous one, Robert told Emma as they flew over the Rockies. "I was more careful, more focused on building something stable. James wanted to explore the world, experience everything it had to offer." "Is that why he was on a sailboat when he disappeared?" Emma asked. Robert nodded. "Sailing was his passion. He'd been planning to circumnavigate the globe eventually. I was just along for that particular trip to try to reconnect with him. We'd grown distant by then." As their plane began its descent into the small coastal airport, Robert grew quiet, anxiety evident in his tense posture and distant gaze. Catherine reached across to squeeze his hand. "Whatever happens," she said softly, "we're here with you." The coastal town of Bayview, Oregon, was exactly as the investigator had described it, a picturesque settlement nestled between forested hills and the vast Pacific Ocean. They checked into the town's only hotel, a charming inn overlooking the harbor, where fishing boats and pleasure craft bobbed gently in the afternoon. "Son, Waters Marine Repair is about a mile down the coast," Robert said, studying the map on his phone. "According to the investigator, James is usually there until 6. Catherine glanced at her watch. "That gives us a couple of hours to settle in and prepare." Emma, who had been peering out the window at the unfamiliar scenery, turned to her parents. Can we walk on the beach first? I've never seen the Pacific Ocean." Robert and Catherine exchanged glances, both recognizing that a brief delay might help calm Robert's nerves. "That's a wonderful idea," Catherine said. "Let's all get some fresh air." They spent an hour walking along the shore, Emma collecting shells and interesting stones, Robert and Catherine walking hand in hand behind her. The familiar rhythm of the waves seemed to soothe Robert's anxiety, and by the time they returned to the hotel, he appeared more centered. "I think I should go alone first," he said, as they discussed their approach over a late lunch. "If he does, remember me. Seeing all of us at once might be overwhelming." Catherine nodded. "Emma and I will wait at the hotel. Take as much time as you need." At 5:30, Robert stood in the rental car outside Waters Marine Repair, gathering his courage. The business was housed in a weathered building right on the harbor, with boats in various states of repair lined up on trailers in the yard. A hand-painted sign featured a simple blue wave design and the words "Quality Repairs, Fair Prices." Robert watched as a man emerged from the workshop, unmistakably his twin, though leaner and more weathered than the photos had shown. James was wiping his hands on a rag, speaking to someone still inside the building. Even from a distance, the sight of him alive after all these years was overwhelming. Finally, Robert stepped out of the car and approached. James had his back turned, securing the door of the workshop. When he heard footsteps, he called out without turning, "Shop's closed for the day, back tomorrow at 8. "I'm not here about a boat, James," Robert said, his voice unsteady. James froze, then slowly turned around. For a long moment, the twins stared at each other across 25 years of separation. Recognition, shock, and something unreadable flashed across James's face. "Robert," he said finally, his voice a rougher version of his brother's. "It wasn't a question." "You remember me," Robert replied, relief and new tension warring in his chest. James gave a short, humorless laugh. "Hard to forget your own face." He studied Robert intently. "You look prosperous, still running those fancy hotels." The casual reference to Robert's pre-disappearance life confirmed what Robert had begun to suspect. James had his memory intact, had known who he was all along. "Why didn't you come back?" Robert asked, the question that had haunted him for decades finally spoken aloud. "Why let me think you were gone?" James sighed, suddenly looking tired. "It's complicated and not a conversation to have standing in a parking lot." He gestured toward a modest house on a bluff overlooking the harbor. "My place is up there. If you want to talk, that's where we'll do it." The brothers walked in silence up the winding path to James'